Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Maddock, and I will be this year's co-host for both the Forest City Youth Film Festival and the Ontario Youth Film Festival. Welcome to another Youth Filmmaking 101 seminar. Today's topic is In Conversation with OYFF Student Filmmakers. We have many special guests lined up for you. All of our filmmakers today created their movies while still in high school and went on to place as winners and runner-ups at last year's OYFF. We have put together a pre-recorded video that will outline how each filmmaker started making movies, how they created their award-winning films, and advice they have for everyone thinking of starting their own filmmaking journey. After the video, Calvin, Hannah, and Liam will be joining me for a live Q&A session. So as you're watching, think about what you'd like to ask. Your teachers can post the questions in the live stream chat, and I'll be sure to pass them along. So, without further delay, let's start the video.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryder Scarrow. I am 16, I go to school at Beale, and I am a part of the Original Kids Theatre Company, and I've been doing that for 5 years now. I will be the official co-host for this year's Forest City Youth Film Festival and the Ontario Youth Film Festival.
And I'm still Michael Maddock, and I'm still the other official co-host for this year's Forest City Youth Film Festival and the Ontario Youth Film Festival. I'm in grade 11, and I go to Sir Frederick Banting Secondary School, and I'd love to pursue acting as a career.
We're here to present our seminar in conversation with OYFF student filmmakers.
Today, we're speaking with 5 award-winning student filmmakers who were all in high school when they first created, then watched their short films up on the big screen.
Our speakers today are Sophie Virio, the filmmaker behind the experimental short Trip Switch, that won the OYFF experimental category and was an official selection at the same category at the Central Ontario Youth Short Film Festival.
Calvin Cow, the documentarian who made the film Apathy Apocalypse, that received runner-up in the documentary category at the Ontario Youth Film Festival and won his category at the Forest City Youth Film Festival.
Liam Murphy, the creator of the music video The Night Before Halloween, that placed as runner-up at both the OYFF and the FCYFF.
Hannah Abdelrazik, who created the animated film Thank You Miyuki, that was runner-up at the Ontario Youth Film Festival and winner at the Forest City Youth Film Festival in the animation category.
And Chloe Clune, who created the short film The Adventures of Marg, that won the narrative category at the OYFF and was an official selection at the COYSFF.
We hope you enjoy our conversation today, and that you realize that you don't need a whole production house to make your own award-winning film.
Hi, my name is Sophie Virio. My short film is called Trip Switch, and I was just getting out of grade 11 when I made the short film, so I was 17 years old. My film, Trip Switch, is me expressing the feelings I was experiencing during the time that I made it. It was me trying to express my anxiety, depression, and what I felt when I had panic attacks through a short film, and trying to get that message out there to other people who are experiencing similar feelings to me, and to let them know that they're not alone.
Hello, I'm Liam Murphy, and I'm the one who made The Night Before Halloween, and I was in grade 12 when I made that. For description, it was the night before Halloween. Carl the Skeleton decides, it's a bit dull around here. Why not liven up the place with a bit of ghostly music? So he takes out his conductor's baton and conducts a party of the living dead instruments.
My name is Hannah. My short film is Thank You Miyuki, and I made it when I was in grade 12. Thank You Miyuki is a short film about a granddaughter, her name is Miyuki, spending a day with her grandfather and exploring the concept of meditation. So the film shows their journey together as she asks her grandfather questions and embraces the curiosity about meditation.
Hi, my name's Chloe Clune, and I'm going to be talking about my short film, The Adventures of Marge. I made The Adventures of Marge when I was 16, so in the fall of grade 11. My film follows the story of 17-year-old Marge. When she realizes she's not living her life to the fullest, she sets out on an adventure.
My name's Calvin, And my short film is called After the Apocalypse. I made it for the festival last year in grade 11. Climate change is a big deal. Scientists have been predicting for decades that it is going to severely affect our life on Earth, yet the politicians and the general public really keep kicking it down the road. After the Apocalypse explores the reasons behind climate inaction and climate denial from a psychological perspective, and how we can overcome our inherent biases to have a unified response to this really life-threatening crisis.
Was your OYFF film the first film you ever made, and what inspired you to make it?
This was the second stop-motion animation I've ever made. I found stop-motion animated movies fascinating, and I would watch videos about the animator's process, and I found it was such an interesting way of storytelling, and I wanted to try it myself.
I've made small films before just on my own, but never actually released it. It was just for my own sort of enjoyment. So technically, yes, this was the first short film that I ever made and the first one that I ever submitted to film festivals. And what led me to doing this was I was in grade 11 and going into grade 12, and I figured out that I believe it was 5 of my courses that were related to film got canceled, and it felt like I was at a really low point in my life, and it felt like a lot of bad things just kept happening and piling up, and I finally said, you know, I have to take everything under my own control, sort of figure it out my own way, and I don't need anyone else or any other courses to provide me with success because I can make it on my own. And I took all of these negative feelings that I was having and I put it into a short film and I put it out there, and it's been doing really well so far.
I think this is like the first official short film I've ever done, but I have done like previous ones as like assignments in my communications technology class in high school. And my inspiration for doing them would have to be my teacher, Mr. Overeem. He'd give us like these fun, wacky assignments, like you have to do this and incorporate one of these things into your thing, and then make it a film and submit it. And that's what we do, and boy, I had a lot of fun doing those.
This was my first short film. I've always loved making iMovies with my cousins, and I think that definitely prompted my interest in filmmaking. I'm also a professional photographer and have been operating my own business for 4 years now. So my interest in photography and the aesthetics definitely contributed to like the cinematography components of filmmaking, which was my favorite part of the process.
So this is the first short film I've ever made. It was inspired by a somewhat frustrating conversation I had with a climate denier in line at my local supermarket. And I thought, you know, I wish I could understand why this person thinks this way, which led me down a research rabbit hole and finally accumulated in After the Apocalypse.
Have you entered other festivals before?
I have never entered other festivals before.
Yes, I have entered in other festivals before. I've entered in almost 10 different festivals. I came in second place at the Vaughan Film Festival last year and have also been selected to take part in this year's. I also won Best Actress at the Couch Film Festival for the 1 to 5 minute category.
The Forest City Youth Film Festival was my first festival experience, and I gotta say, it was an amazing one seeing my film up there on the big screen.
Yes, I have. I submitted my film to tons of other film festivals, and so far I have been accepted into 9.
This was my first time entering a film festival.
Did you make your OYFF film alone, or did you have a team?
Right, so I did make my film alone, at least most of the hands-on work was me, but I got a lot of advice and guidance from a lot of really bright peers and teachers in my school's communication technology class. If you're looking for a way to get started in film, communication technology classes at your local high school, they're a great way to go. You'll meet a lot of kids who are really interested in film just like you are, and you'll get a great qualified teacher to help guide you through the process.
I did make my short film alone. It was all by myself with the help of my mom here and there just to drive me to some locations, but all of it was me. The story that I wrote, the directing, the everything, the editing, it was all me.
I made my film with the help of my sister. I also needed to source resources like the chickens that are at the end, the film equipment. So I really had to network with family and friends to kind of find those things, and I was very fortunate to be met with a lot of generosity.
I want to say I did work as a team. I did the stop motion by myself, so all the production was by me, and I worked with my sister on the narration and the voice acting.
99% of it was just me. The animation, that was just me. The music, that was just me. But in terms of the stop motion part, I remember in the beginning my sister was there for my sister was there to help do a tiny bit of the hand motions for Carl, but then after the first 2 days it was also just me doing that. And I also do know that my professor, Mr. Overeem, he helped design the cello, violin, viola dude. Because I drew an outline of the characters, then he went ahead and did his little design. I just changed it to match what I was thinking, and yep, the rest was just me.
Were you nervous to enter a festival? What was it like to see your movie on the big screen?
I was very nervous and hesitant to submit my film because I usually only show my work to family and friends. So this would have been my first time showing my work to a huge audience. And seeing my film on the big screen was both exciting and scary. I still think about it till this day, wow, my film was really streamed on a big screen and there was a huge audience watching. And I'm very grateful for having that opportunity.
Entering the festivals is easy. That's the easy part, is entering them and clicking submit. It's not until you see your film on the screen that you realize, oh yeah, everyone in this room is watching what I made.
I felt like showing all these people my film, I was very vulnerable, and it was something personal about me, and I was just, showing it to everyone. It was very scary, and I wasn't sure if people were gonna understand what I was saying, and I was afraid of judgment. But if you're not gonna put yourself out there, then what's the point, What was it like to see your movie on the big screen? It was a very strange experience. I felt a little, it was feelings of excitement and nervousness and maybe a little embarrassment just because, everybody's seeing my face on this huge screen, but I was very proud of myself.
In all honesty, I was not really nervous to enter the film festival. It was just I knew that I was going to be entering into it. I made the film, and I just submitted it and waited, and in all honesty, seeing my movie on the big screen, only thing that was going through my mind was I wonder if I'm even gonna place high at all. And then suddenly I got second. I was not expecting that.
I think all of us as humans are always scared of other people seeing and literally judging our work. But to see my film up there on the big screen in front of that crowd and to see people laughing and smiling and nodding, it's really a magical experience. And so I think to all those young filmmakers out there, don't be afraid. Get your stuff together, submit your film. You never know what can happen.
What was the hardest part about making your film?
It was a very challenging experience just to figure out what story I wanted to tell, and once I figured out what direction I wanted to go, like how I would get that message out there, if it would actually have a meaning, people would actually understand it. I think that was the most challenging.
Stop motion. Doing that by yourself with a skeleton who does not stay in place, and like, Carl, you lift his hand, in 2 seconds it's gonna be going. So you have to, like, I remember my whole setup, I'd have like a half ladder, I'd set up my phone on like one of the steps, tape it down, angle it a certain way so that you could see Carl. I'd have to get a light, put it underneath him at a certain angle so you could see certain parts of him, but not like the background and all that stuff. And then the hard part came where you'd have to have your finger where the picture button is on your phone, and then at the same time as you're clicking that, you have to hold fishing wire tied down to his hand and try and like click, click, and then after that you take all those photos and then you have to download them to your computer, and you can only do a certain amount at a time, and it that was like a lot of work.
I think the hardest part of making my film was cutting all the pieces and painting them, because it was so time consuming, and I had so many like tiny pieces. The more I cut, the more I had to work with, and I ended up losing a few that were already like cut and painted, which was devastating. So at some point I got a small folder and sorted all the pieces in them.
I think the hardest part about making my film was probably just getting out and like making it happen. It's so easy to procrastinate and come up with excuses on like reasons why things won't work, why you shouldn't do it. But it's important just to like push yourself and just to go for it.
So the netbook that I'm recording this video on now, it is not built for animation, let me tell you that. When it was rendering the final copy of the film, I really thought it was gonna blow up. So yeah, I had definitely technological constraints were the most difficult for me, but you know, I still got a film made and it won Best Documentary at the festival, so I'm not complaining.
What's something you learned making your short that you'll apply to the next film?
Something I learned is that it's never going to be perfect, but you just need to go for it anyways.
Having too many frames is better than not having enough frames. I think my main issue is that I underestimated how many pictures I would need to take to make each shot run smoothly but also fit with the narration.
I'd say just the overall timeline of creating a quality short film is much tighter than I thought it would be. Maybe it'd be a little faster if I had a better computer, but all in all, don't underestimate how much time it takes to do all those little minute things you'll never consider when you're planning your film in the first place. That can range from just waiting hours for something to render, spending hours researching the topic at hand if you're doing a documentary, or crashes and lost work. There's just so much stuff you have to account for. So I would definitely leave myself lots of extra time.
Something I learned was to not really get stuck on anything and sort of just go with the flow of things, because you'll just eventually lead yourself as you continue to sort of go on, because a lot of things might change while you're filming, or your whole story might change, or you'll get a realization midway of making your film, you know what I mean? So not really to get stuck on things.
I don't have to go into every single tiny detail. Like, there were some things where I'd see, like, something very tiny that only, like, I would notice. And so I'd go into that and fix it and take, like, a bunch of my time to do that, when really, no one's gonna notice. No one's really gonna care. But, yeah, I'd have to say, just, like, if it's really tiny, even if it's, like, bothering you, do all the big important stuff first and then, like, focus on the small stuff later.
Are you planning on going into filmmaking after high school?
I am planning to go into journalism after high school. I really want to continue making documentaries or go into fields like newsreel. I really love nonfiction camera work.
Yes, I do intend on pursuing film. I'm going to be going to post-secondary next year to study photography and film.
In terms of after high school, I was planning on either going into music or filmmaking. I decided on music, however, if I went into filmmaking, I would have wanted to be in, like, probably some sort of animation, like, could be stop motion, could be traditional, like, hand-drawn ones.
I'm not planning on going to filmmaking. I actually chose graphic design. But I want to branch out and try other things, so I was planning on using my electives to learn about filmmaking and storytelling, and I also want to experiment with stop motion in my free time.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually graduating this year in a few months, and I'm going to be going to York for film production, so I'm going to be making a lot of films in my next few years at university, which I'm really excited for.
What kind of budget did you have for your film?
My budget. I had this huge budget of $0.00. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything. It was just me, my school computer, and whatever the heck I had around my house. And creativity. That was my budget. Nothing. But you know what? You don't need a budget. You don't need, like, a bunch of fancy stuff. So long as you just have fun, let your creativity just... You'll be surprised on what you can do.
I have $0 in my bank account, and I had $0 when I started. Well, actually, I have $500 in my bank account now because I won the award. But it really takes no money to make a film. As a student, people would be shocked. With a microphone borrowed from my school's awesome communications technology department and free software, so for animation I used Krita, and I just used the computer I already had, which wasn't ideal, but, you know, still worked pretty all right, and a drawing tablet I'd already owned, and really that was all I needed. And with some free video editing software, bam, there was my film. So don't be worried about budget constraints. You guys can make a film.
For most of my film, I just used my iPhone to record, so you don't need anything special. I didn't. I do have this old Canon camera. I might have used it for a few shots. I honestly can't remember because I used my phone for most of the time. And you don't need anything fancy like that, nothing expensive. For, like, putting things together and editing, I did use Adobe After Effects, which is not very expensive when you have the student plan, which I believe is monthly pay. So, yeah, I didn't use anything fancy. You don't need to. If anyone tells you that you do, they're wrong.
I didn't have a budget for my film. I tried to use materials I already had, and the materials I needed were already at home, so I didn't really need to buy anything.
In terms of a budget, I didn't have one. Same with my second one. There was no budget. I used whatever I could find around the house, like borrowed items. When I needed to, I thrifted things so that I knew I would have, like, another use for.
What was it like being on set or working with voice actors?
Working with my sister on the narration was really fun. It took a very long time to convince her to be in my film, but eventually she agreed. I had a script for her, so before recording, she read through the whole thing, and then she practiced the overall tone and the voice acting. I was going for like a calmer or softer tone because it matched the theme of the book. And then we started recording, and we actually did it in one sitting, which I was really proud of.
What it was like being behind the set. Nice and dark. All you got for lighting is just a single flashlight. Because I was in my basement doing this. You got a bunch of blankets everywhere, a bunch of things that you just have to crawl around to like dim the lighting and all that stuff.
I kind of made like little sets around my house, like the letter at the beginning, and had its own little setup, same with Marge's desk. And I really liked curating these little environments, but it definitely made a mess of my house.
This film was sort of a party of one. I'm the narrator in the film, and I'm also the guy behind the scenes who edited it all together. I'd say working with narration while you're animating it, pro tip, make sure you record all the audio and the music and the sound effects and everything before you start doing anything visual, because it is way easier to go and re-record a line than to have to reanimate an entire scene because some of the audio doesn't match up. But yeah, so working even with myself in audio was very frustrating, and that was a lesson I learned the hard way.
I was making my short film all by myself. I had nobody else that I was working with or getting advice from. I was working with just basically my phone. I didn't have anything fancy to work with. I hadn't had any previous sort of classes or anything like that. I was just, following my own instinct and just going with the flow of what I felt was right. And I think that's the best kind of advice I can give to anyone who is thinking of making a film or who has already made a film and hasn't submitted yet. Just go for it, and you can make something amazing.
What would you say to encourage someone who's debating whether or not to make their first film?
You need to start somewhere, so just do it.
I think you won't find out if something is for you until you attempt it. And filmmaking is always worth a try. You can learn a lot just from the process of creating a film, even if it doesn't come out the way you want. And you might think, oh, I need like specific materials, a specific setup to create something. But you can use anything you want. You don't have to follow the rules of filmmaking and whatever the professionals are doing. You can make the process your own and have fun with it. Do it in a unique way that makes sense to your budget and to your sources.
If you don't think you're good enough to make a film, you probably are. Like, let me tell you something. So, when I was making this film, I was going through the same kind of thing too. I would think to myself, like, is this really good? There's probably like a bunch of other people out there who are like way better than me. I'm probably gonna be like one of the worst out there. But, I just had fun, just kind of pushed those thoughts to the side. Like, easier said than done, obviously. But, yeah, what it really came down to was just having fun.
Honestly, you don't need much to make a good film. You don't need any special equipment or training or anything like that. You can do whatever you want. You can use whatever you have and make an incredible short film. And you shouldn't be nervous about submitting to film festivals. I mean, if you are, you got to think about, if you're not going to put yourself out there and be vulnerable, then what's the point,
Look, Picasso didn't pick up his paintbrush as an infant and paint the world's greatest masterpiece. Get out there, make your film, and show it to us. We want to see it, and you'll be so proud of yourself.
Welcome back, everyone. Gosh, you just gotta love all these filmmakers talking about so many useful things and so many inspiring and amazing ideas that they have, all for the budget of $0. Isn't that crazy? I also really love how all these short films were debuts for most of these filmmakers. Now, three of our filmmakers are able to join us live today for questions. We have Hannah, Leah, and Calvin. Sorry, not Leah, Liam. We have Hannah, Liam, and Calvin. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
All
Thank you for having
right.
me.
So, yeah, of course. So, I just have some questions for you guys. First of all, it's great meeting you all. I loved all of your short films. Some of them actually inspired me to maybe start filmmaking in the future.
Nice.
You know, I got some ideas. So I do have some questions. So I would like to start off with Calvin first. So how long did the animation process take?
So the funny thing is, I didn't know how long it would take when I started because I'd never done animation before, really just some simple digital art. Animation takes a long time.
Yeah.
It took a really long time. Probably 80% of the time spent making the film was on the animation. So I definitely advise anyone who's looking to go into animation to, just try animating a short scene fully and sort of gauge how long it takes because that'll help you get the scheduling right. But yeah, definitely in the maybe 100+ hours at least.
And so how delicate did you have to be with every shot? Did it have to be almost frame perfect every time, but just a little change for every frame? Or were you able to just skip a couple of movements?
Mhm. So I don't really know if you can call the animation in my film fully animation. A lot of it is just static poses with some motion effects, or what they call squiggle vision, where you just draw the same frame again to give it sort of a sense of life, and all the lines will go around. So for anyone who's looking to get into animation, but think actual full frame by frame is a bit too tedious, that's a great way to get started, to have sort of a more rougher animatic style like I did. So yeah.
That's really interesting. So it didn't take that many frames, but still kind of looked like an animation. That's awesome.
Yeah. So for a lot of the shots, it was pretty much just like 3 frames played over and over and over again, and it looks like it's not dead. So I think mission accomplished.
That's awesome. All right, I have a question now for Hannah. What was this your first stop motion film that you've ever made?
It was my second one. I made one maybe like 2 years ago with Lego. So no, but also yes, because it was my first one with paper.
Okay. Do you plan on making any other stop motions in the future?
Yes, definitely. I was thinking about making another one. I just don't really have a story yet. But yeah, I'm planning on making something else.
That's super exciting. I honestly can't wait for it because I did love the one about Miyuki. It was very inspiring.
Thank you.
All right, for the next question, I have Calvin again. Do you plan on making any other short films about global crisis?
So as I talked about in like the pre-recorded session, will want to go into like documentary filmmaking or journalism filming. I am currently writing a script for another film. I can't say the exact topic yet. It'll probably have something to do with ecology. But yeah, I'm definitely always looking to explore new ideas. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you think you'll always focus on like crisis, or would you try to focus on other things, maybe like anything positive? Or are you trying to kind of spread the message of things that need to be dealt with?
That's an interesting question. I mean, you always hear about how the negative stuff gets the most attention on the news cycle and stuff. So to make a living as a journalist, you kind of gotta cover the negative stuff. But now that you mention it, why not try and explore some positive things as well? So yeah, I probably should do a bit of both.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see the next one. So I have a question for Liam. So you mentioned going into music after high school. Are you planning on making any music videos with your original music?
That is a good question. If I can, that would be preferable. I can't guarantee that I would be able to, as in university there's not as much time as there was in high school. And, well, homework comes first. But if I have any spare time, I guarantee there's going to be some sort of stop motion animation and Carl is going to come back.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I love Carl.
Heck yeah.
All right. So Hannah, have you ever considered trying other types of animation?
I've considered like digital animation. I don't really have like a device to try digital animation, but yeah, that's something I want to try in the future.
Okay. So you plan on kind of learning how to do it in the future?
Yeah, probably. Maybe
Okay.
when I get a device for it.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you come up with the idea of making a skeleton compose a bunch of ghosts?
Honestly, I have no idea. It just kind of happened, but it was probably the music that I made. It just sounded spooky enough, and I was like, oh, well, I have a skeleton. Why not make a skeleton compose ghosts? Look like instruments. Okay, sounds good. And then it just kind of happened. Yeah. Honestly,
Awesome.
I can't even tell you why, but it just did. That's how it went.
Now I gotta ask, did you wait until Halloween time to start making it?
Oh, it started way at the beginning of the year. I know it says the night before Halloween, but shh, it's a lie.
I won't tell anyone. I won't tell anyone. Calvin, were you inspired by any other animators?
Yeah, for sure. There's this great YouTube channel called TED Ed. It's run by the same guys who make the TED Talks and stuff, and they make these wonderful little short animated documentary style or videos, and that was a big inspiration for my film. And I always liked just how digestible and colorful and fun, but still informative they were. And that was a big inspiration for me. Highly recommend you check some of their videos out if you're looking to make animated documentaries.
That's super cool. So I also have to ask, have you ever kind of wished with working with TED Ed? Or do you want to kind of branch off as your own creator?
Oh yeah, I've thought about it for sure. Like I would love to work there. Hopefully, as I gain not even just with TED Ed, but just with the TED Foundation in general, they make some awesome nonfiction films. Yeah, I'll be sending my applications in after I get my degrees, and we'll see out there.
That's awesome. So I think I did ask everybody but Liam about working on any other projects. So Liam, are you working on any other stop animation right now?
Not currently. I am working on some music things, but in terms of film and animation, unfortunately, being in university now, I do not have access to my lovely old high school computer. But yeah, I'm probably at some point gonna get me a nice editing app and start making some more films. I got a song that sounds very Western in it, so can't wait to see what my mind will do with that.
Do you plan on becoming maybe a composer yourself for the music that you make?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of things would you like to compose? Maybe would you like to compose like movies or TV shows, or would you like to go more into kind of your own thing?
One thing that's always inspired me was video games.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, more leaning towards like cartoony video games, fun, exciting stuff like that, like Mario, etc. Family friendly titles.
That's
So,
really cool. That's really, really cool. So for Hannah, um, how did you pick your topic for your film?
It took me like a few weeks to figure out what I wanted to make my film about. And then I just had an idea to animate a children's book. So I did some research for that, and then I saw the cover for a book by the same author, Thank You Miyuki, but it was called Patience Miyuki, and I was really inspired by that. But I figured the book was kind of hard to animate as like my first animation. So I looked for a different book by the same author, and then I found Thank You Miyuki.
That's super cool. So how did you find the how did you come up with the message within your film?
I read through the book and like took some notes about kind of the vibe and the message by the writer. And that's kind of how I figured how I wanted to like deliver the message for my
Okay,
animation.
interesting. All right. So for Calvin, how did you first hear about the Forest City Youth Film Festival?
Um, I heard of it first in my communications technology class. Our teacher had recommended we go check it out. And if any people watching here are looking to make films, communications technology teachers at your school are a great place to start to learn more about festivals. And my teacher, she gave me a lot of guidance during the production process. Yeah, and they're so just ask your teachers. It's a great place to start to learn more about filmmaking.
That's great how your teacher recommended something outside of school for you to do. I love how teachers can teach us things like within school, but can also teach us things outside of school. Leah, do you have any did you make any major changes to your film once you started filming?
yeah, there was a lot of things that just kind of happened, like a lot of scenes that just kind of appeared out of nowhere, some that I wanted to do that wouldn't work, so I'd have to take it out and all that stuff. But most of the time it was just adding more stuff. That was the thing. It would be like I'd be going on doing a whole bunch of animation, and then I just think of something like, oh, it'd be great, the clarinet sticks out here, why don't I just like make it do something? All right, we got a close-up of Carl. I have an idea, let's make it spin around his head. And I'd spend like a whole week doing that, and it would come out looking great. And then suddenly, next day, oh, you know what? The bassoon here is really nice. What if stuff like that? But yeah,
That's really cool. So, did you have like an original idea that you had before, but then you changed it as you got into filming?
yeah, actually. I think the original idea was some completely different. Yeah, because in terms of for the film festival, I wanted to go into like some sort of animation. I learned through my communications technology teacher, just like Calvin. And yeah, it was before I realized that my song would be a great fit for this. So I had like a plan before that. And I think it was like I was gonna animate a stick man like in a computer, and then suddenly he goes to the border of it and gets out and starts going around and doing live stuff. But then I forget how it came up, but my communications technology teacher heard of my song, and then he was like, hey, why don't you do something with this? So that completely changed, and then suddenly Carl happened. And I would not have it any other way.
Those are both really interesting ideas that you came up with. I wouldn't be mad if you even did the first idea. That sounds really interesting. So what, it was kind of like in the computer and then it came out into the real world?
Yeah. Basically, what I would have done is like I would have filmed a computer screen, like just a blank one. I could animate whatever on that, but it would be like a blank computer screen with like some sort of program like Adobe Paint or something like that up. And then there'd be a stick man, and then I just animate it like walking around doing whatever. And then suddenly, kind of hitting the side of the computer, I'd give like a hint as to like, oh, the stick man wants to see what's out there. And then suddenly it just like body chucks into the side, and then it flies out, and I'd go and probably what I would have done would be I'd cut out a bunch of little pieces of paper to like do different running frames, walking frames, etc. And I just have it interact with the environment, like maybe push over a book or like jump onto a keyboard or something like that. Just have the stick man experience that kind of thing. How I would have held the stick man up, I have no idea. Yeah, I would have figured that out as I went along. But yeah, probably would have been like, well, stop motion again, except just, yeah.
That's super interesting.
Okay.
If you ever do try to do that again, I would love to see it.
Heck yeah.
I have a question for Hannah. So were there any parts in your animation process that you thought was easier said than done?
Definitely. I think like the intro where the flowers like opens up. Like when I was sketching and planning out how I would do it, I thought like, oh, it can't be that hard. But it actually took me many tries to actually like figure out how to do it, and then actually having it like done, or like the final cut.
Okay. Were there any things that were easier than you thought?
I was kind of worried about how to make the characters walk.
Okay.
But once I figured out how to like cut their arms and legs in a way that I can animate them, it was easier.
Okay. That's really interesting. So it was kind of like once you got the hang of it, you just started to go, and it was easier as you went along?
Yeah.
Okay. Question for Calvin. Were there any kind of writer's block with you when you were making your story?
I think probably the biggest challenge that came when writing the script was because to do research for the documentary, I read this like 300-page book by this climate change activist, and he proposed like a lot of different ideas on how to stop climate inaction. And the real challenge was synthesizing that down to a few key points. So yeah, that was probably what took the longest. But once I decided on the three sort of topics that I wanted to focus on, everything else went a lot more smoothly. But yeah, I still don't regret doing that thorough research, because I think it's important to have a very good understanding of the topic before you make any sort of film about it.
Definitely. You can't just go on there and, have some things that may or may not be true, and you don't know because it may not be true. All right. For Liam, have you considered making another kind of genre of film?
Another genre of film? Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Couldn't think of it at the moment, but I'm pretty sure at some points I've been like, hey, what if I did a more serious thing? That cartoony stuff. But yeah, I've dabbled a bit in my content class in terms of genre. Most of the time, it always has to have some sort of humor somewhere. It has to. No matter
Of course.
what genre, it's got to have one moment at least where it's funny, if the whole thing isn't funny. That just is a must-have. Let's see, I think I had one that was more serious. It was it was a project that I did, and it was one where I was, oh my god, I was in the dark again, except in an even more dark area, and it was like a nightmare kind of setting and stuff like that. And I had creepier music in the background that was very, very faint, and I'm pretty sure it even faded out at certain points just for more suspense. But it was pitch black area. I'm walking around with a lantern, and a bunch of scary stuff is jumping out, and then suddenly the comedy aspect, well, there's a few, and it was I had pieces of paper that I was looking at, and it was I'd look to the right, and then suddenly it's homework past the due date, and then it would be oh god, and stuff like that. And then suddenly I woke up from the dream. Oh yeah, that's right, I woke up from it because I saw Carl in the dark, and it was so spooky. And another funny part that I added into that was Carl reaching over and grabbing my shoulder, and then me looking back and freaking out at the end because I woke up from the dream, and oh my god, it's Carl. But yeah, that's kind of closest I've gotten to changing genres. It's no matter what I do, could be spooky, could be western, could be action adventure, anything like that, but there's always going to be comedy.
Okay. So, would you say that comedy is your favorite genre to even watch?
Probably. Yeah. In terms of watching stuff, yeah, I don't know. I just watch a bunch of things, but whenever there's comedy, yes.
Well, comedy's great. I love laughing at animations and films and things like that.
Yeah.
Me personally, for comedy, it's a little hit or miss because it could be funny or it could not, and it's trying to push too hard to be funny.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
but once you really get that kind of idea of how funny it should be and how to kind of put the comedy out there, then you can really make a great comedy film.
Yeah, I find you can't really overdo it.
Yeah,
don't try and force it. Just let it happen. If the idea is there and it's something small, that's the stuff you want to put in.
Yeah, just let it be natural. For Calvin, I have a question for you. What was something you were most proud of your film?
I would say I was pretty happy just with the overall visual style of it. I remember it took a big, so for most of the production process, I had used really flat colors and cell shading. It all had a very digital look. But towards the end, when I was editing everything together, I started experimenting with like applying textures to the scenes. And if you look closely at any of the shots in the film, you can look closely and you'll see that there's a bit of a texture overlaid over it. And I was really happy with how that looked in the end. And that's always a cool thing to experiment with if you're doing animation or film of any kind, is using overlays.
That's super cool. So I don't know if you remember, but how many overlays did you have when you were animating?
Like just the textures or like layers, all the layers together?
I would say all the layers.
Oh boy. Let's just say by the time I made new layer 51, I was starting to my computer was starting to struggle. My brain was too. But that's digital art. Oh boy.
That's amazing. But it's a lot of work to put 51 layers in it.
Oh yeah. The worst
Yeah.
part is like organizing them. When you draw the wrong thing on the wrong layer, and this goes for like any video editing at all, like it is a nightmare. You have to sift through the layers one by one and like show them and hide them and try to find which one it was on. But you know what? Once it all does come together, you feel so satisfied. You feel amazing. So layers and video editing, hate it as much as I love it.
That's awesome. I think I have one more question that I can ask. So for Hannah, was there anything positive that, like for you personally, that came out of your short animation?
I think the experience, like the idea of making an animation with paper, when I was watching like videos on YouTube, it just seemed very intimidating. So just trying it was like a good experience, and now I feel more confident in making more stop motion animations in the future.
That's amazing. All right, so it kind of looks like our time is nearly up. So on behalf of everyone watching, I'd like to say thank you to all three of our filmmakers. All of your inspiring advice and insight has been incredible. And for all the filmmakers watching, just a quick reminder that we're taking submissions for the 5th annual Forest City Youth Film Festival and the 2nd annual Ontario Youth Film Festival. You can learn more about our film categories and competition rules by visiting fcff.ca/submissions or oyff.ca. You can also visit each festival's page on Film Freeway. Just go to filmfreeway.com and use the search bar to search for Forest City Youth Film Festival or Ontario Youth Film Festival. Be sure to follow both festivals on social media to stay updated on latest news, seminar announcements, and other filmmaking events. Thank you all for joining us. Now go film something amazing.